Raise your hand if you can guess what you think Clarabelle might be. Thank you for raising your hand.
I think he's gonna be about that Clarabelle.
You think so?
I think Clarabelle is the that cow that goes on maybe a fictional or
An adventure.
or it's about milking Clarabelle.
Keep that thought in your head. Because there's a subtitle to this story too, and it's called Making Milk and So Much More. So, if you think about the subtitle, what do you think the book will be about? What do you think you'll learn?
A famous cow that can milk stuff.
What do you think?
I think we're gonna learn about cows and a special cow named Clarabelle.
Ooh, that's a really good prediction. What do you think? Think you're going to learn about Clarabelle the cow?
Yes.
I think you're right. Okay. This story was written by Chris Peterson,
Yeah.
but there wasn't an illustrator in this book because there's not pictures that were drawn, right?
Yeah. So it's a photo.
It's a photographer, exactly. So there's photographs in here.
Wait. So it's
And the photographer is David Lundquist. So he took photographs and put them in the book.
It's nonfiction.
Yes.
If it doesn't have an illustrator, that means it's nonfiction. It's just like pictures from a
That
phone.
was my next question. So do you think, raise your hand if you have an answer for me. Do you think this is a fiction story, like a made-up story, or do you think it's nonfiction and you're going to learn information? What do you think?
I think it's nonfiction.
What do you think you're going to learn about?
Cows and how to milk them.
Do you think you're going to learn facts and information about cows and how to milk them? I think you're right. Okay, keep those predictions in your head and we're going to check them when we get done. Clarabelle, Making Milk and So Much More. Here's our title page.
Be quiet, girls, bathroom.
Our thank you page. There she is. Just over the crest of a freshly mown alfalfa field in a huge white roofed dairy barn lives Clarabelle. She's pretty cute, huh? She's got a cute little face. Clarabelle's black fuzzy ears jut out at right angles from the sides of her knobby head. Her soft brown eyes are framed in black and separated by a wide band of white that runs from the top of her head to her muzzle. So this is her muzzle. What's another name for her muzzle?
I can't see. No.
Yeah. See how her white band goes all the way down to her nose. Her angular body is covered with huge black spots that look like splashes of ink. They just threw ink or paint on her. A few pieces of grain and a stray alfalfa leaf or two stick to her whiskery nose, which spends a good part of each day burrowed in a pile of feed. You see the little strings of alfalfa that's stuck to her nose. She spends a lot of time eating. Wait till you hear how much she eats. Clarabelle is a Holstein dairy cow. She lives with 1,200 other cows on a family farm called Norswith, owned by Sam and Josh's parents and grandparents. Here's Sam and Josh. The barn sprawls across the top of a rolling hill in northern Wisconsin, surrounded by fields of corn and hay. Thick groves of oak and maple trees dot the landscape, providing habitat for deer and other wildlife that feed on some of the corn grown for the cows. So not only does the corn feed the cows, but there's a lot of wildlife that comes around and eats it too. So Clarabelle's pretty good about sharing her food. Sam and Josh, along with their two older brothers, help at the dairy when they're not in school. They do have to go to school, just like you. Question?
On the other page, right, like,
Well,
why do they have those things on the page?
Good question. Keep it in your head, okay? I'm gonna ask you that when we get done. It's really good thinking. Clarabelle is big and bony.
Oh.
Listen to this. She weighs 1,500 pounds.
That's 1,500.
As much as a soccer team of second graders, with the coaches thrown in for good measure. So if you took a soccer team and you put them all on a scale with the coaches, they would weigh as much as Clarabelle.
Wow.
That's a lot of people, right? And she's almost as tall as Josh and Sam's dad. So she stands as tall as a man. Each year she gives birth to a calf that weighs about 100 pounds. So when she gives birth, the calf already weighs 100 pounds. The average baby, when it's born, only weighs about 6 or 7 pounds. But the calf weighs 100 pounds.
That is impossible.
That's a lot. Then she produces milk that is bottled for drinking or made into cheese, ice cream, yogurt, and other dairy products. To make all that milk, Clarabelle eats heaping piles of hay, corn, and soybean milk. So here's the hay that she eats. Here's the corn, the grain, and there's cottonseed, and this is corn silage. That goes in the silos, and I'll read more about that as we go on. The 7 tons of feed she chomps down every year is enough to fill a bedroom to the ceiling 3 times. So that would be about the size of your house that you live in. If you filled it up with Clarabelle's food, that's how much she eats in a year. From the floor to the ceiling. It's too big. Her amazing 4-compartment stomach, she has a very interesting stomach, and I'll show you a diagram of it. Recycles leftover food and fiber products such as brewer's grain, sugar beet pulp, and cottonseed. Finally, the manure she creates during all of this manufacturing helps generate electricity. You guys know what manure is?
Yeah, manure's cow food.
Soil. But it's actually good for the earth.
It is good for the earth. Good point. And yeah,
So because they
you're going to be amazed at what they do with manure.
because they eat a lot of grass.
That makes sense.
Okay, it's my turn. It also provides fresh bedding for the cow stalls as well as fertilizer for the crops grown to feed her. You could say that Clarabelle is a 4-footed factory. She's like a little factory. She creates all this stuff just from her body.
Just like birds making spots.
Oh, there's a little cow.
Can I see? Okay, girl.
Okay, it's my turn. Before Clarabelle can produce milk, she has to give birth to a calf. At Northswith, calves are born every day of the year, and on the day Clarabelle's calf is born, 4 other cows give birth too. Cows don't usually need assistance with calving, but Josh and Sam happen to be helping in the barn when Clarabelle and 2 other cows calve. So they got to be there when Clarabelle had her calf.
I know what a baby is. A lot of baby.
Oh, look at that. Oh my goodness.
That was like what has the things on it. They pierced her ears. Oh, they gave the milk.
Within minutes of the big event, the newborns begin to struggle to their feet as each one endures enthusiastic cleaning by its mother's sandpapery tongue.
I know.
Snuggled in the deep straw of the maternity pen, the calves are fed bottles of warm, creamy first milk by Sam and Josh. So the calves get fed bottled milk by the boys. The calves don't drink the milk from the mom. Listen why. After giving birth, Clarabelle really goes to work. 3 times a day, beginning at 7 o'clock in the morning, that's probably about the time you get up, she and other cows from her pen trundle down a lane toward the milking center at North Swiss. Clarabelle waits her turn to enter a stall in the center, where a worker cleans and prepares her for milking. She stands quietly while a milking machine is attached to her 4 udders. There you can see that milking machine that
No, that's not. It's okay because you can
gets
drink
attached
the
to
milk.
her.
Because that's actually the stomachs. That's your 4 stomachs.
You can drink.
No, not her 4 stomachs.
That was.
She does have 4 stomachs, but those are her udders. That's where the milk actually comes out.
Wow.
Music, oh, this is funny. Music floats from a boombox near the entry to the milking center as Clarabelle stands placidly chewing her cud. All the pumps and motors that run the milking machine are located in the basement beneath the center so the equipment stays clean. And the center remains quiet for the cows, except they play music for them. They like it. I think it helps them produce milk better. Whirling fans blow fresh air through the building. So they try to keep the cows as comfortable as possible while they're giving milk. As soon as the machine is attached to Clarabelle, she starts giving milk. Listen to how much milk she can give in a short period of time. In less than it takes for an average kid to eat a bowl of cereal. How many of you eat cereal in the morning?
I want to eat some.
It only takes you, what, maybe 5 or 10 minutes?
No, teach me 50.
Okay.
It takes me 5. It takes me 1
Well, listen to this. This is what Clarabelle does while you're eating 1 bowl of cereal. In less time than it takes an average kid to eat a bowl of cereal, she gives nearly 5 gallons.
What?
Enough to pour on 160 bowls of cereal.
What? 160
In about 10 or 15 minutes.
10 or 15
So,
minutes?
you know what a gallon jug of milk looks like? Does your parents usually buy a gallon?
That's 5.
She gives 5 of those in like 10 minutes.
We give milk to my sister. I think he'll get 15.
Looks healthy for you. The milk then travels. It's my turn. Oh, you need to be sitting up, please.
3, 2, 1. Crisscross. Hands into lap.
The milk then travels from the milking machine through a pipeline to a refrigerated cooler. Do you see the pipe right here?
Yeah.
Where it is kept fresh and cold. So it goes from the cups that's attached to Clarabelle, and then it goes up through the tubes and into the pipes, and then it travels down to a refrigerated cooler. And this is what they look like.
Whoa. Whoa. Can I see? Why are those kids on there?
Sam and Josh. Drake and Josh.
Well, do you see the ladders? So they climb up them and they're hanging out. They were there for the photograph. So because their family is the ones that run this dairy, so chances are when they get old enough, they're probably going to help take it over. So they need to learn all about it too.
What, the kids?
Each of the coolers that Josh and Sam are perched on holds 6,000 gallons of milk, enough to make thousands of pounds of cheese or
Ice cream.
pails of ice cream.
Or yogurt.
Or yogurt.
He said yuck.
Okay, it's my turn. Twice each day, a tanker truck pulls up to the milking center and the driver transfers a full cooler of milk to his truck. So the truck pulls up and they move it from the containers to the truck.
How do you do that?
It's like a pump.
And then
It's kind of like how the gas trucks pump gas into the underground tanks. So it's like a vacuum pump. He dips out a sample of each load to test for bacteria and butterfat and protein and to make sure it is clean and pure. So they have to test it before they transfer it into the truck. They have to make sure that it's safe before they're gonna go through all that trouble to transfer it and then process it. Then the milk is hauled to a cheese factory nearby. The empty cooler is automatically washed and sanitized. Here's the interesting part about Clarabelle's stomach. To manufacture all that creamy white milk, Clarabelle has to eat a lot. She stands at the manger and eats several bushels of feed at one time. Then she lies down and brings some of it back up into her mouth. Listen to this. She eats her food and then she regurgitates it. It means she brings it back up into her mouth and then she chews it again.
And it spits it out. Yeah, the baby.
She lies down and brings some of it back up into her mouth and chews it like bubble gum. So she just chews and chews and chews and chews.
Which one?
This chewing is called rumination or cud chewing. And it's the process that allows a cow to obtain energy from plants. Because she is eating plants, right? Clarabelle spends 4 out of every 6 hours eating and rechewing her feed. Stuff that humans could never digest travels through her 4-compartment stomach and breaks down into nutritious food. All that chewing makes her produce nearly 30 gallons of saliva a day. I know, right?
30,000?
It's like your spit, right?
Imagine eating so much.
That's a lot of drool.
Imagine that whole truck drool.
And here is the picture, and it kind of gives you an idea of what her 4-compartment stomach looks like. I have a better picture that I'll show you. The rumen is the largest of the 4 compartments in Clarabelle's stomach. It holds 25 gallons of material, or about as much as your bathtub holds when it's half full. That's how big her stomach is. It holds enough that could fill half of your bathtub. The rumen works like a huge churning, bubbling vat where bacteria and other microorganisms break down the tough, chewy feed into nutrients Clarabelle can use to make milk. And then here's another process that they go through. Once she's done eating all that food, mountains of chopped corn and alfalfa silage are stored at Northswiss, ready to feed to the cows. Silvery bins of soybean meal, ground corn, and other dry feeds are lined up next to a giant truck scale. Every day, a worker scoops up piles of silage with a machine that has fat wheels and looks like an overgrown go-kart. See the little go-kart? And then it's got the bucket up on top. The machine is called a telehandler because it's telescoping bucket scoops of each ingredient, lifts it high into the air and dumps it into a mixer truck. All the good stuff for Clarabelle's balanced diet is measured into the machine, and then it's tossed like an enormous salad. So then it's all mixed up.
No, it doesn't, because you have to eat dough.
I mean a salad.
The mixture is specially formulated by a dairy nutritionist to meet the needs of all the cows at Northswiss. The recipe appears on the computer screen in the mixer truck and in the barn office. The daily feast is delivered right in front of Clarabelle and her hungry herd mates when they come back from the milking center. There they all are, enjoying their mixed up food.
Smooth. Wait, is it with the one that they chew?
Well, she's gonna eat it, and then she's going to swallow it, and then she'll bring it back up, and that's when she chews it like bubble gum.
But we don't swallow it then.
Right, don't swallow bubble gum.
That's gross for us.
Okay, it's my turn. Let me finish the story, okay? Thank you. But before Clarabelle returns to her meal, a worker scrapes the manure from her pen. This is really interesting. Listen to what they do with the manure from her pen. The cow stalls are cleaned and fresh bedding made from manure is blown from a bedding shooter into the stalls to keep the cows comfortable. So they collect the manure, but then they do something with it, and then they shoot it back into the stalls, into their pens.
Ew.
I know. It doesn't sound
It doesn't sound
good,
right.
does
Like,
it? But cow stalls full of manure? That sounds pretty yucky. At Northsmith, a complicated bunch of equipment and storage vats located just beyond Clarabelle's barn turn manure into clean bedding. So they get clean bedding out of that manure.
what's bedding?
The stuff that they lay on, the material that they lay on. Electricity, it turns it into electricity and fertilizer for the soil on the farm. So they make clean bedding out of it, electricity, and soil to put over the plants to fertilize it.
What does fertilize mean?
It just kind of makes the dirt and the soil better. The system is called an anaerobic digester, a fancy name for a group of separators, tanks, and converters in which microscopic bacteria eat cow manure and in the process create methane. Methane is a flammable gas. Who knew they could make gas out of manure?
Ew.
And it is used to power a generator. The generator makes electricity, which is sold to the local power company. The leftover solids from the digester are used as bedding for the cows. At Northsmith, the electrical generator runs day and night, creating enough electricity to power 400 homes. So like your whole little community, they could give enough power to. Here's the digester monitoring station. You can see them watching the monitor. This is the bedding that they get from that digester that goes down in Clarabelle's pen. And here's Sam and Josh's father and grandfather, so they're all looking at the diagram. Keep your question, okay? Josh and Sam's dairy farm is a big operation. Many people besides their family work there. They help cultivate hundreds of acres of crops to grow all the feed needed for Clarabelle and her 1,200 herd mates. Each cow on the farm will produce enough milk in her lifetime to feed a family of 4 for 17 years. So pretty much from the time that you're old enough to drink milk until you probably go to college, that's how much one cow can produce. But Clarabelle is more than just a mooing, chewing food factory. She's part of Josh and Sam's family heritage that goes back several generations. Without knowing it, she and the rest of the cows at Northsmith create food, renewable energy, and a successful business. Each day, as Clarabelle ambles down the lane from the milking center, buries her big, wet nose into a pile of fragrant feed, and spends hours chewing her cud, her remarkable system produces milk, and so much more.